Yep, go for it.
Good evening. I call to order this regular meeting of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission, and I'll begin with a few introductory comments. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones have been silenced. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.org site for viewing by the general public. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, July 31st at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, August 15th at or after 9 a.m. The affected parties will be notified of the meeting date, and meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. Any action taken on the preliminary plan during the public hearing tonight is a recommendation. That will be forwarded to the County Commission for another public hearing on Tuesday, August 15th at or after 9 a.m. Meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the June 26, 2023 meeting are included in the consent agenda. Next, I'll read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the Planning Commission or the audience. If any member of the Planning Commission or the audience would like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the Commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. Item number 1 is the approval of the minutes of June 26, 2023. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 23-30 to exceed 3,600 square feet of accessory building area, requesting 8,260 square feet on the property legally described as Tract 1, Johnson's Addition, Southwest Quarter, Northwest Quarter, and the Northwest Quarter, Southwest Quarter, Section 7, Township 103 North, Range 50 West. That is in Lyons Township. The petitioner and property owner are Lucas Lowen. Location is 25144 466th Avenue. Item number 3 is conditional use permit 23-31 to exceed 1,600 square feet of accessory building area, requesting 3,240 square feet on the property legally described as Lot 3A, High Country Estates, except the north 12 feet, the west 99.91 feet. It's in Section 7, Township 102 North, Range 49 West. That is in Maple Township. Petitioner and the property owner is the same, and it's Matthew Lease. Location is 25793 Country Lane.
Yeah, you just want to poll?
Oh,
You want to poll?
yeah, I want to pull them to the regular agenda.
Okay,
Okay.
so move on to item number 4 is, this is a preliminary subdivision plan 2301 to allow the subdivision of tracts 3 and 5, Haar's Addition in Section 30, Township 102 North, Range 50 West. The petitioner is Eric Willitson. Property owner is White Buffalo Ridge LLC, and that is located along South Dakota Highway 38. That's approximately 1 mile southeast of Hartford.
Madam Chair, can I just ask a question for staff on that one? I was just wondering about the access roads on there. I believe both of them are paved on 466 and 261 are both paved. And I believe neither township claims ownership of those roads. I was just wondering, when that quarry is done, do they have a road haul agreement or anything like that to get on there, on access on 261 to get down there? So I was just,
No, they don't.
is that something that needs to be,
Well, it's a section line highway, so they have the right to use that. It's
Okay.
just who's gonna end up maintaining it's gonna be the issue.
okay. Do they need to do anything with that then, or is it?
This time, but eventually it's could be an issue.
Okay, all right. I just want to clarify that, I guess, so.
You want to leave that on consent agenda? Is that all right?
Fine.
Okay. So on the consent agenda, items number 1, number 2, and number 4.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda except for item number 3. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. If your items have been approved, you're free to go. We'll move to the regular agenda. Item number 3. Mason?
Good evening, Commissioners. Mason Seffern from the County Planning Office. As explained earlier, this conditional use permit is a request to exceed 1,600 square feet of accessory building area, and the petitioner is requesting 3,240 square feet, which would be a 36 by 90 building on the south side of the property. On July 5th, staff did conduct a site visit of the subject property in the surrounding area, and the property is located in the 8-lot High Country Estates subdivision, which I can show on the map here. So this is the 8-lot subdivision that it is within, and Renberg School is this property to the west. Additionally, if you look at the site plan here, it is proposing, oh, did I not include the site plan? Whoops. The site plan states that the rear yard will have a 8.5 feet from the rear yard and 7 feet from the south property line, and this meets all of the required setbacks, given that based on the location of the building, it only needs to have a 3-foot side and rear yard setback, and this is defined in Article 12.07C2 of the revised zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County. As you may have seen for a second there are several cars parked in the area where the building is proposed to go. These have dealership plates on them as of now, and the property owner does own a dealership. I'm not sure if it's in the county, but off-site, and these vehicles would go inside of that building. So allowing this building would allow those vehicles that are currently being stored outside to go inside the building. With every conditional use permit, there are 6 criteria that we look at. Number 1 is that the effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the use is already permitted and upon property values in the immediate vicinity. There should not be any negative effect upon the use and enjoyment of the residential property. It also should not affect property values, and as I said, allowing the petitioner to build this building would allow those cars to be placed inside of the storage building, which would generally benefit the surrounding properties. Number 2 is the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. This property is located in a residential subdivision with several similar sized acreages. However, there are no available building eligibilities within a half mile, so the rural density that is in the area of housing will remain the same into the future, so the main uses around the property will continue to be agriculture for the foreseeable future. Therefore, this proposed accessory building should not have any anticipated effects on any development that does occur on that vacant agricultural land. Number 3, that utilities, access roads, drainage, and/or other necessary facilities are provided. The petitioner will be required to extend all the necessary utilities to the structure, and the building will be accessed via that existing driveway, as you can see in that picture there. That the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. The proposed site is large enough to accommodate this requirement, and this accessory building would allow for more off-street parking inside of the enclosed building. Number 5, that measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting, inclusive of lighted signs, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. No commercial Business or storage will be allowed in the proposed accessory building at any time, and any public nuisances will be addressed upon the planning department receiving a complaint about the subject property. Number 6 is that health, safety, and general welfare of the public in a comprehensive plan. In general, this proposed request should not affect the health, safety, and general welfare of the public, and the proposed use will generally fit in with other properties in the rural area. With that, staff is recommending approval of conditional use permit 2331 with 8 conditions, and I'll just go through a couple of the other pictures here. So this is the picture of the proposed location of the accessory building. This is just looking a little bit farther to the east, showing the shelter belt of trees around the house. And then here's looking down that property line, the south property line, to show the shelter belt of trees between the property and the property to the south. And then this is looking directly across the road to the east, to the nearest neighbor to the east. And then I'll go back up to the location map, and I'm available for questions. And if you want me to read the conditions, I can. Otherwise, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for him?
Madam Chair, he owns a car dealership, you said then, or is?
I believe so. He mentioned it when he applied. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but all of these do have the dealership tags in them. So you can ask the petitioner exactly what it is, but
But if he wants to sell it, is that still commercial use, so using the building as commercial use, so?
storing the private property in the building wouldn't be a commercial use. If he started selling the cars out of that building, then yes, it would be considered a commercial use.
But not housing it and then taking it down to a dealership or anything like that, then that would not be considered commercial use on.
If the commercial use is not happening on this property, then no, the housing of the cars on this property would not be considered commercial.
Okay.
Any other questions for him? Okay, is the petitioner here? Please step forward and state your name and address.
Talking to Matthew Lease, 25793 Country Lane, Renner, South Dakota.
Adam, did you have a
Yeah,
question?
yeah, I was just gonna ask, are these gonna be for do you own a dealership then?
I
or-
own a dealership, yes, correct.
And those are gonna make it down there to get on your dealership then?
My
or-
plan is no. I have some old cars. I have a sixplex in Brandon. I have a garage there, and I would like to move my old car collection into that building.
Okay.
I guess there would maybe be 1 or 2 plow vehicles that I take off a lot during the winter. And if you look in the picture, they are sitting there. But I don't plan on selling vehicles out of there. We're not allowed to with a dealer's license. You have to
Yeah.
use only your placement that I've already have. I have 2 lots in Sioux Falls. They're right across from each other.
Okay.
Any other questions for him? Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to address this item? Please step forward, state your name and address.
Dennis Seibert, 25795 Country Lane, Renner. I live right south of Matt. We as a neighborhood, the whole neighborhood, I'm speaking for the whole neighborhood at this moment, every single person in the neighborhood is against this. We don't want this building in our neighborhood. The building's way too big for the amount of space it has, even if it can accommodate it. It's gonna be bigger than any other building in the area. We can go on to just the water runoff from the roof. What are we gonna do with a 100-foot roof and the amount of water that runs off that roof? Half of it's gonna go Matt's way, the other half's coming my way into my backyard, and it's not gonna leave my backyard. It's just gonna flood the backyard and sit there. I've been there for 31 years and I ain't never had any water problems, but I'm gonna have with a 100-foot roof draining into it. Let's go to the snow. The amount of snow that building's gonna change, and the way that the wind blows through the neighborhood. You know, we don't need 20 inches of snow like we had in the past to give us a problem. Just a couple inches of snow. It's the wind. And with that building sitting there, we already have problems. when we clean out the road and we pile it alongside the road, it's 2, 3 feet deep. You can have a nice day in Sioux Falls here and this snow is melting and it's running down the street and we go out there and the frost ain't even off the trees yet. And the wind's blowing and I can't even see down the road to my neighbors because of the amount of wind we can get there. Matt, last year when we were cleaning out our snow, he had no place to put his snow. He piled it up all in front of his front yard, and when he ran out of room there, he pushed it across the road into the neighbor's property along with half the road. And then left the gravel lay in the neighbor's yard and let them clean it up. Took them 3 days to scoop it all up and get it out of there. And, we can go along with, the letterhead came from, World Properties. Who's World Properties? We've been looking around for World Properties on the internet since June, and we can't find anything on World Properties, but yet it was addressed, it came from Matt Ness. So who's World Properties? Is it actually gonna be from Matt? And if that's the case, is he doing some work with World Properties with the building or what? We moved here and did some research on living out in the country. Being an old farm boy, I didn't want to live in the city. And with the rules you had in place, we felt pretty safe with the way it was, that we wouldn't have any over-construction or overbuilt buildings on our property from ambitious neighbors. And we felt pretty good. And the rules are in place. They're in place right now. But here we are talking about 3,000 square foot building on a lot that big. My gosh, it's bigger than anything there. And would you want to walk out the side of your house, walk around the north side of your house and look at a 100-foot wall of metal? After you've been living there for 30 years and planted trees and everything else, and you go sit out on your deck and look around, there you look at a 100-foot wall of metal. You can't plant nothing next to it. The amount of heat that's going to radiate off that building, it is going to be difficult to keep anything growing there within 20, 30 feet of the building, if at all. And let's go back to the snow. You can only imagine how it's going to change as the wind blows through there and it drifts through. I can see it coming through. There's a hole in the grove right there. It's going to come straight through, straight down that side of the building, go right over the side of the road. And as soon as there's a pile up from the plow, it's going to fill in there. And it's just going to keep filling in that deep every time the plow goes through it and piles it up along the side of the road. Let's talk about the lights. We already have 3 yard lights in the backyard. We got the school's lights. We got the lights on the school. There's a yard light that Sioux Valley runs for whatever the reason in the Grove. It's been there for 30 years. Nobody knows who owns it. It's just something Sioux Valley, whatever. It's been there. And now you got the lights on that building too. We always like to look at the stars and look at the night and kind of enjoy ourselves after a day's work and relaxing outside and look at the stars and things. And, here we are. We got so many lights blinding us, you can't see anything. So we as a neighborhood, and it's unanimous in our neighborhood, it's everybody in the neighborhood. I don't you can pick any one of the neighbors and nobody wants it here. I got a signed paper for it. And it's too big. They have all their own reasons. But what I have written down here and what they give me to help you read is snow removal, drainage issues with the setback and those trees that are there. Who would be building the shed and the licensed contractor and all this stuff that we deal with. Why does it have to be twice as big as what you've already allowed? You allow 1,600 feet. That's a 50-foot building, roughly. And that's enough for me to worry about water drainage, but not like 100 foot. Not to mention what it's gonna do for my property value. Who's gonna wanna live there and look at that? When he himself says he's got property in T and all over the place here, that he just said, why don't he build it there? He says he's working there in T with those cars, then build the building there, where he's working there. He says he doesn't want to bring his work home. Then why do it? Then why build the building there and do that? the amount of rats, or not rats, but the amount of mice and rodents and things and coons that stuff is brought into that place is unbelievable. I had no problem with that. I had no problem with that for 30 years. Now all of a sudden I've got coons and coon families and mice. Every time they move things around over there, I got mice. I got a 70 Roadrunner that I store in my shed, and I'm pretty proud of and take good care of it. And it's worth quite a bit of money. And I got sticky traps all over the place, and I'm catching mice all the time. I never had mice before this. And now here we are, building a building to put some more in there. And we're all against it. I mean, I can continue on here, but it's getting late for everybody. We're all tired. You know, even when he piles up the snow in the front yard, well, he's got to put it someplace. I get it. But again, we're back to that water drainage thing. Here, we're just talking about a pile of snow, and it melts, and it runs down across the road to the neighbors. They got to drive through it every day they come home until it dries up. Pretty soon, the road's chopped up. It's full of potholes. They're ruining the road that we actually paid for to get built up. Now, Mapleton Township comes in there and grades it once in a while and dumps some stuff in there, but generally speaking, we built that road when we moved in there 30 years ago. It was nothing but a Baja road, and you had to get back out of your driveway and floor your accelerator to get out of all the mud to get to the highway to get out of there. Finally, we got sick of it and dumped a bunch of rock and gravel and built ourselves a road there. And now you got that coming up. And we got all that water coming off that building. It's gonna flow over the road, go into the neighbor right across the road that just had all these gravel off the road pushed into his yard. I mean, it's nothing but problems. It's gonna be a nightmare. We've lived there forever. We built families there. We live our lives there. Now we gotta live with this oversized, over construction in a lot like that. And we're all against it. 100%. Got the papers here, whatever. I'm done.
Okay, any questions for him?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Doug.
so you and your neighbors would be happy with him just leaving the cars out there like they are pictured?
No, we were hoping he would be moving those cars. Yes, we're tired of that too, but the amount of trouble that building's gonna cause, it's a toss-up. I mean, you look at those cars, that's nasty enough to look at. When I get when I walk out of my house onto my deck and I look over there, that's what I see. 3 deep, car, a trailer, a car, and this and that. Okay, no, we don't, but we can't stand a 3,200, over 3,200 square foot building to put him in when he's got other place to build that building. The amount of trouble that building's gonna cause us in that lot, I don't know what's worse. I really don't know what's worse. Living with the problem of that building and all that's gonna cost, what's it gonna cost me to get my yard to drain that water properly? I never had water in my basement in my life. I don't even have a sump pump. I had a basket, but I never had water in it. Now what am I gonna have? No, we wouldn't want those cars there. We were hoping with common sense, and trying to have a nice neighborhood, and the neighborhood that he moved into was nice, you would think that you would try to keep it nice instead of destroy it, whether it's with cars parking around there or an oversized, overconstructed building. You would think the common sense would be to not do that. I don't even know why we're here talking about this, but the rules that's in place right now for 1,600 square foot is big enough. That lot. No, I agree. I get it. It's a toss-up. I don't want those vehicles there, but I don't want that building there either. I think it's a bad thing both ways. I was hoping he would just take him back to his business in T, where he just said he had a building and so forth. He works down there, take him there. Or sell them. Why keep dragging them things around everywhere you go in life? Why drag this? I mean, it's like a bad ball and chain, and you just
Be
drag
speaking to the mic, sir.
car after car after car, and pretty soon there's 12, 15 cars following you around in every neighborhood you go live in.
Is there anyone else who cares to address this item in the audience?
Yep, I'll speak quick.
If you have some additional things to say, step forward, state your name and address.
Jordan Dvorak, 25789 Country Lane, renter. I mean, my comments, probably more just, really just around the size. I mean, it's a huge building. I mean, roughly, I think we figured 2.7 times the size of the house. I mean, it's just huge. It's going to dwarf the house. So, I mean, that's probably more mine, just the aesthetics and just it's going to look out of place. I mean, it's just huge. So that's, all the other comments that, my other neighbor here brought up are all very valid too, but probably one I wanted to emphasize, at least as my perk, as I live right next door to him. So, thank you.
Thank you. Don?
Don Oschlager, 6705 North 10th Avenue, a sitting township board supervisor from Mapleton Township. I'll talk a little bit about what Denny had mentioned, the size of the building. And I think one thing that we need to keep in mind here is these accessory buildings not that long ago were 1,200 feet. And that wasn't big enough, so we went to 1,600 feet, and this applicant is asking for more than twice. This applicant also lives what is now a township road. So as Danny stated, the residents built the road. It's been taken over by the township. The applicant over the winter had no place to go with snow, and Danny's right. He broke the law, plowed the snow across the road, dumped it in the neighbor's ditch, and the neighbors had to clean it out. We had several calls. We don't have, we have a skid loader. We'd probably do more damage than good if we went out there to clean it up. But the other thing is, I think it's very important about, an inch of rain on a rooftop that size. And that drainage is directly toward the township road, okay? So there is a bit of fear that there's going to be excessive washout, or potentially could be. So I don't know if he has any deflection in place, or if it's just going to drain onto his driveway, wash his driveway onto the road, and then end up the same place that the gravel did during snow removal. So this is rural residential. This is not ag. And I mean, there's a lot of, probably a lot of machine sheds out there in the country that are probably about the same size or not much smaller. So, I think the size of 1,600 fits a little better. I mean, you half the roof size, you half the drainage, you kind of take care of some issues. This is the second time I spoke to the same thing. It's been some years ago in my neighborhood where I live. Another car dealer did the same thing, put up a very large, oversized building, and he skirted around the ordinances by putting a 600 square foot living quarter in that building. So it was considered attached, so there was no limits. But he was also a car dealer in Sioux Falls. As a township, we put up the no truck signs because the intent for that was to come in with the car carriers, offload them, detail them, load them, take them back to the dealership. Now, if you have that many collector cars, hats off to you, but I don't know why we have a driveway sitting full of cars with dealer plates. I think we're abusing the dealer plate thing, but that's not my issue nor yours. So I just would like you to consider the things talked about here. I think it's still rural residential. The lots are, it's not ag, it's smaller lots. That building's gonna fill that lot up, even though it fits, like Mason said. I mean, these guys do an outstanding job and they cover the bases, but man, I don't know. I'm just concerned about the things that I spoke about here, so I'd like you to consider that if you would. Allow a building, but maybe dwarf it just a bit, maybe we don't need it quite that big. Okay?
Any questions for him?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address this? Yeah. Can you address any of the concerns?
As far as the car lot and me having space at my car lot is in Sioux Falls on 12th Street. It is not in T. There is no room to put any sort of buildings there. I don't plan on bringing car lot cars there. Yes, there are some vehicles like the snow removal and the trailers sitting there. And as far as them being against the size of the building, I don't want to have my neighbors mad at me. So if they're way against the size of the building, if we can come to an agreement where I shrink the building down, I'm okay with that, because I'm not looking to. I bought it 2 years. I bought it 2 years ago. I remodeled it. It took me 2 years to remodel it, and I would like to put a building. The only reason I moved out there is because I knew I could put a building up there, and it is for my personal cars that I have a collection of. They haven't seen any of them cars, so they don't know the vehicles that I'm talking about. They're actually in Brandon in a sixplex stored away in a building in the garage there, and it would be actual personal cars that are all nice and been done and redone, and they're nice. So it has nothing to do with the car lot. That's just what I do. Like, I don't fix them up. I've just bought them and they've been fixed up, and I collect them. So I wouldn't be doing any kind of car lot stuff out of there at all. And if they're against the size of the building, I want to keep everybody happy. I don't want them mad at me. You know, I've been there 2 years, and I put my phone number on the letter I sent out. I mean, I talked to him a little bit about it in the snow removal. I ran out of space. Yes, I pushed the snow across, but I did it 1, maybe 2 times when it snowed. And I asked the prior owner, where did he put his snow? He said he pushed it there for the last 20-some years. So I thought it was okay. I didn't know that I pushed it in their yard, because there's actually, I didn't push it way up in their yard. I pushed it still on like the edge of the gravel or something. So I didn't intentionally mean to cause gravel in their grass or something. And there was a lot of snow. And when's the last time we've had a winter like that? 20 years ago, 15 years ago? I mean, I don't think that to be a common problem to push the snow anywhere. But if they're so against the size of the building, I'm not against not having that large of a building. And they have good points as far as like the runoffs. I don't know that stuff myself. I don't want to have a bunch of water sitting in my backyard either. I don't want to have an issue with that. If they build buildings, or they know more about it than I do, I'm willing to be fair about like that. Like, I'm not against. I don't want to have issues either. And as far as that snow running out of space, the neighbor down the hill pushed all his snow up in my snow as well. So it's not just me pushing snow in places that they don't like, I guess. His pile was probably about a third of the size of mine. My pile was very tall. I don't know what else to say as far as being any more fair than that. I mean, if they're against the size of the building, move it. I thought moving it back and being level with the building, because honestly, with the whatever's stated as far as laws, there's like 3 options. I can just add it to the building, and then I can get the conditional use permit, and it'll be 30 feet forward, and I'll still be within the limits, and I don't even have to do the conditional use permit. My understanding. Without that, I wanted it to be behind the building, so it wouldn't bother the neighbors as much. So I want to be fair to everybody. I don't want to live there for 20 years and have the neighbors mad at me for 20 years. I mean, whatever they think is fair, I'm okay with that. But I would like to go over the 1,600 square feet. That's why I did this, because by law is you can go 10% of the land, 3,300 square feet. So I was still under that requirement. I just don't want them mad at me. I gotta live there, you know. I don't know what else to say besides whatever everybody think is fair, but I'm definitely gonna work on putting a building up. Whatever's gotta be fair, I guess. Any questions or anything else, I guess?
Any questions for him?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I am quite concerned with the size of the building.
Sure.
If you could work something out with the neighbors that everybody can agree on, I think that would be a very logical solution to this. And that way, you know, neighbors, you got to get along, because you don't know who might be the next person that buys a property. They
Correct.
might be a terrible neighbor. We just don't know, but
I don't want to be the terrible neighbor. I have a house that I moved from. I lived on Tut Hill before I came out here, so I live in a very nice neighborhood prior to this.
And I just
So-
really feel, to be a good neighbor, we should work this out on the size of the building.
Yes.
If I was to make a motion right now, it'd be to defer this for a month and you and your neighbors get together and come
I
to a
put my
solution on
cell
the
phone
size of the
number on.
building.
Oh, sorry. I put my cell phone number on the letters I sent out. If we want to all go have lunch or whatever they have time for, I'm always going constantly. So I'm not against changing the size of the building. I don't want them mad at me. Like, I don't want to have to be a nuisance in the neighborhood. But the reason I did move out to this house, I originally bought it. World Properties is my company. I guess he was asking that. I own rental properties. I purchased this house from the prior owner. I was gonna flip it. We liked the neighborhood, we liked the school. I'm gonna sell my personal house, and this will become my personal house. I'll take it out of the LLC, and it'll be put in my name as soon as we sell this other home. So it'll be my personal home. And the reason I moved out there is not only the school, but the fact that I knew I could put a building out there. And right now I currently have like 6 or 7 restored cars. I just was gonna fill it up and collect them. I mean, they're all really nice cars, not from what they see sitting there. I mean, yes, it's an eyesore, but the cars that I would be putting in the building, they are actually all nice and restored. I don't have anything more to say except try to make them happy, I guess, and I don't want to be the nuisance to the neighborhood. So,
Madam Chair, I agree with Doug. I think that that would be a wise approach, is to defer this for a month for them to meet and see if they can't come to some kind of an understanding.
Anyone else?
So I guess that was my motion to defer item number 3 for 1 month and get together with your neighbors and hash it out and come to a good mutual understanding so everyone is happy.
thank you.
I have a motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and second to defer conditional use permit 23-31 for 1 month. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Move on to the regular agenda. Conditional use permit 23-27 to allow a short-term rental on the property legally described as a north 25 feet vacant access road lying between tracks 6 and 33 in the west half, vacant access road, and tracks 5 and 6, lot 7, Bauman subdivision, section 21, Township 101 North, range 51 West, that's Wall Lake Township. Petitioner and property owners are Jackie Thomas and Christian Lauder. 26559 East Shore Place is the location. Kevin?
Good evening, I'm Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. This item is to allow a short-term rental on the property as you described it at 26559 East Shore Place, located here along Wall Lake. The petitioner is requesting to utilize the existing house on the property for short-term rental. Minnehaha County recently changed the zoning ordinance to allow short-term rentals and vacation homes with approval of conditional use permit. The location of the property is on the east side of Wall Lake, East Shore Place, with a development of approximately 20 houses here. This permit request is only for the house that's highlighted here, the 26559 East Shore Place. If you remember last fall, the house just in the north of this, 26557 East Shore Place, was approved to allow a bed and breakfast type facility, short-term rental type facility as a bread and breakfast in a mobile home replacement on that property there. This property was brought last fall, and it was denied at the planning commission, and the county commission upheld the denial of this property to be a bed and breakfast. The narrative that the petitioner has submitted for this request describes that the petitioners have worked to communicate more with the neighbors since the last fall meeting, that the new request has improved understanding of what is happening with the property. I'll highlight a few of the criteria for the item. That this property is located within an existing subdivision. Short-term rentals such as this approval are generally compatible with residential sites. This ordinance does limit the number of guests in the property per 3 per bedroom. This is a 2-bedroom house, so that would be 6 people in this house. The neighboring property is already approved for short-term rental and shares a driveway with this house. Adding the proposed house with the short-term rental will complement the approved property next door. Criteria number 2, the effect of normal and orderly development and improvement in the surrounding vacant properties for predominant uses in the area. This neighborhood is largely built out with single-family dwellings. The operation of short-term rentals should not have effect on future development in the area. The number 3, utilities, access road, drainage, or other necessary roads, facilities are provided. This is an existing house that shares a driveway, so utilities and driveways are already there. Number 4, the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. As per the ordinance, 1 space per bedroom equals 2 parking spaces. The site has 2-stall garage and sufficient parking space for off-street parking. Number 5, the measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, and vibration and lighting, inclusive of lighting signs, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. The activities of a short-term rental are similar to those of a single-family dwelling. The concerns about nuisance and late-night parties is somewhat limited due to the low quantity of people of 6 people for the house. Will limit the potential for noise and parties. Number 6, health, safety, general welfare of the public and the comprehensive plan. The proposed use should have minimal, no negative effect on the public. The short-term rental, just for example, a short-term rental was approved on the other side of the lake just last fall as well, and this would be a similar situation on a private road. And this would have been on West Shore Place, and that short-term rental was approved with no opposition. Staff is recommending approval of this request with 5 conditions. And I will go through a few of the photos. You'll see here, this is the driveway here. There's a shed off to the right of the driveway. Helps kind of screen off the area as well as fencing and trees. This is the front yard of the house in the background. The garage is to my right. This is kind of looking towards, there's a asphalt pad just off to the front yard of the property. And you can see kind of the background, the neighbors' storage containers there. This is side across the garage. And then this is directly towards the nearest neighbor to the south. And you can see lots of trees and fencing in place. So I'll bring it back to the site plan. And I am available for any questions.
Any questions for him? Yes, not. Is the petitioner here? Will you please step forward, state your name and address?
Good evening, Christian Louder, 3775 Highview Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80908. Don't know if you need zip code or not, but I'm gonna try to keep it short for everybody. First, it's great to see you all again. as Kevin mentioned, we were here last year. We had some opposition from the neighbors. And so, you know, we've really made a lot of progress with our community, and we're, you know, really happy to report that today. And so we actually went around last night and this morning to gather sentiment from our neighbors, and we were very pleasantly pleased with how everybody reacted. So we actually went around with a statement on a piece of paper, and that statement said, if you are in favor of the Tom's family, my family, obtaining a short-term permit for 26559 East Shore Place, please sign below. And we were able to get 12 households to sign that permit. And that includes the property directly to the north of the property. There's the house, the cabins to the north of the house, and then the property I'm referring to is to the north of the cabin. And they signed that statement, and, you know, we're very amenable, and you know, they have full faith that we'll be able to manage this short-term rental very responsibly and respectfully to the neighborhood and the community. And I can, you know, assure you that that is the case because I manage property for a living. I have managed multifamily communities of up to 300 plus units simultaneously. And, you know, it was very reminiscent of some of the statements that were made tonight. That's kind of what I deal with, you know, on a daily basis. And I'm trained to handle those situations. And I have a great track record of doing so. And my mother, who owns a short-term rental in Sioux Falls, she has had going on 40 stays at her short-term rental now since she started, and still has a 5-star review. No neighbor complaints. Everybody who stays there says it's a lovely place to stay, and she does a great job, you know, procuring that short-term rental for the community. So as far as the 5 items that we will need to comply with, we have absolutely no issue complying with those and are fully prepared to comply with those. As far as the maximum occupancy of 3 people per bedroom, that will not be a problem. The Airbnb app, you know, requires that you put how many people will be staying during your visit. And so that will be tracked and monitored by us. You know, we'll have cameras on the property, on the exterior, to track how many people are actually entering into the home. And then we'll also have a noise monitor on the property. But one of the other items is the state of South Dakota registry that we'll need to register the short-term rental with, and we will do that. The parking requirement of 1 parking space per guest, we actually have capability of parking a lot of people, so that is not a problem as far as parking, and it would all be contained within the property, so, you know, most of the parking isn't even visible outside of when you're inside the property.
Please speak into the mic, sir.
Oh, yeah. As far as contact information to planning and zoning, they know us very well by now, and you know, we will make sure that all of the correct contact information is kept up to date and on file and record. And then contact info inside and outside of the residence, we will comply with that as well. We've already taken care of the 500-foot notification, and there was a comment about that being a a long distance. And, you know, as we've walked the neighborhood, multiple times, we have noticed how big a distance that is. And so what's really surprising when you are walking that 500 feet is just how unlikely it would be that someone even like 300 feet away from the property would ever notice any activity that's going on at the property. But we'll be taking very close watch and monitoring that. Let's see. So the potential concerns, noise, we're going to have a noise monitor. As far as response times from police, we hope to never get to that situation, but we are going to have a relationship with a courtesy patrol company so that if they're ever needed to respond to something that's happening on the property, we'll be able to utilize them. We care about our property. It's our neighborhood. We're not going to let, anything negative stand. And if we're aware of something, we're going to take care of it immediately. We love this neighborhood, and we're very protective of our reputation as, short-term rental managers. And so we're going to do whatever we have to do to keep that reputation. Just real quick, the alternative of a short-term rental is a long-term rental. We want to keep this property in our family, and to do that, we need to get some income on the property generated, and that is either short-term or long-term. As a property manager, I can tell you it's more often than not that the long-term residents are the ones that cause the most issues, really. With long-term, you have a lot less control. If we were to do long-term, there's no committee like this to oversee that. There's no real oversight, and I really appreciate what all of you are doing, and I think what we're doing here is very important. And so, as far as process for complaints, there's a lot of outlets for complaints for short-term rental. They can go directly to Airbnb, they can go to us, they can go to you guys or the county planning and zoning commission. So and then since we're registering with the state, they can even go to the state registry. So there's a lot of different avenues. If we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, that can be rectified. I'm gonna wrap it up here, but I just want to end on this property has been in our family for a long time, and we do want to keep it that way. My mom and I were talking the other day about how amazing the property used to be when her dad and my grandpa first got it, and all our family was out there at the 3 different properties. And I just want to see it back to that state again. And being able to generate some income on the property is going to allow us to be able to put that money back into the property, keep it maintained, and improve it, improving the community, and improving the neighborhood. And that's the dream. And so that's what we're here today to ask you to let us do.
Any questions for him?
Yeah, Madam Chair, can I ask you?
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting education tonight too, so this may be a stupid question. I don't know.
No worries.
Okay, you have managed many rental units. How often have the people that have been staying at the rental unit complained about a household down the street making noise so they can't enjoy their stay there?
Down the street is very rare. It's usually somebody that shares a wall with them or is right next door.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else care to address this item in the audience?
Tyler Childress, 476 Slip Creek Road. Good operators make good short-term rentals. Long-term, mid-term, short-term renting property, I feel, is a property right in South Dakota. I'm in full support of the CUP. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address this item before I close the floor? Okay, commissioners?
Well, Madam Chair, I'd just like to say, I think they've done a good job of getting out, visiting with their neighbors down there. Being proactive, I guess, being ahead of the game. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve. What number is this?
Item 5.
Item number 5, conditional use permit 23-27.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion and second to approve conditional use permit 23-27. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Any old business? New business? Okay. Need a motion to adjourn on this side.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, move on to the next one.